Yeah, and I think us at home and team and support, like we remember the good stuff. We remember the potential. We remember
Yeah,
the talent. Like you speak to
so
your
true.
friend nicer than you would speak to yourself.
Yeah,
Like just,
yeah, very true.
I don't know. When I look from the outside, I don't really remember the last bad race. I'm like, wow, Valley crashed pretty damn hard. It's going to hurt her mentally, probably, hopefully worse than physically, meaning I hopefully she's not physically
Yeah,
damaged in the crash. Whatever. Like, to me, racing incident, I don't remember that. I remember she's a multiple World Cup winner and
yeah,
all those things. And yeah, it's just so tough. Racing incident came over the top of that brow, just sort of lost the front a little bit, really bad crash. Often her race to lose at the moment. So it's a tough
yes.
position to be in. But that one, I hope she does. That one's a racing incident. Pushing a little bit hard. I think that's going to happen now with these 3 runs. Like you're going
I
up for
know.
another run. You're just subconsciously going to try find time in these
Yeah.
places, I guess.
Yeah, and when you look at the times, I think the boys were on. It was like a low 3 minutes, like a 3:02, 3:03 or something in qualifying, and then they dropped it down to a 55 in the race. So they were finding 7 seconds more. And that I think is where the danger is, because if you've built up your speed to qualifying pace, you're probably going pretty hard. But then to know that you've got to go again, chip off a little bit more time in the semi, and then go again and chip off a little bit more for the final, that you really are riding that very fine line on a deteriorating track. And in terms of the girls, I've got the results in front of me, so I might just have a little quick look. So Marine was on a 36 and she dropped it to a 26. So she went 10 seconds faster from qualifying to the final. And ironically, Cami was on exactly the same time. She didn't, improve. So it's interesting to see how that speed being built up is probably what makes the difference, and how you manage that from qualifying to final.
Yeah, it's going to become a management thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
where you can push, and that's where I guess experience comes. And Tane, would you say maybe didn't quite judge it correctly? Like to me, she was so attacking at the top, fast first split. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. And maybe then she just went over the edge, and then 1 or 2 mistakes, and then they compounded, and then she was bitterly frustrated. Mistakes. Wasn't like glaring, wasn't huge, but they just compound on a 3-minute track. So that's where someone like her probably just misjudged it, just tried a little bit too hard, and
Yeah.
that's where some of those mistakes come from, I would say. And then Cami, yeah, incredibly well ridden in the wet, and then you can see her skill and stuff like that shining through. If her time was the same in sort of wetter conditions, and then
Yeah.
yes, not finding more time, but I think it's more speaking to how good she was in the wet. And I think not enough is spoken about Marine, and we mentioned her in the pre-show. Do you know that she's got 8 World Cup wins so far? And you've got to take out that time where she broke her back. That's as many as Loic Bruni
Yeah,
has.
it's incredible. Yeah,
Just to put it
that's
into
amazing.
perspective.
Amazing.
Like,
Amazing.
she doesn't get enough credit, because when she's on form and healthy and is up there, like she's going to knock on for the wins. It's not just knocking on for another podium. Like 8 World Cup wins to her name to date is pretty impressive.
I was really impressed with her riding all weekend. She looked amazing. And I thought Tane would win it. She was carrying so much speed, and she looked fantastic on the bike as she came through these technical sections. They were the 2 riders that really jumped out. Obviously, Valley looks fantastic on a bike all the time. And Cami had this, she's got like a really conservative, efficient technique, and just sort of rides down. There's no specific flair to it, but you can just see she's carrying momentum as she rides. And Nina just sort of bullies the bike. She literally is like, I'm going to tell you where to go, and you're going to go there. So it's quite cool to see all these different techniques and different approaches and how they win out. And I think Tane will probably be frustrated, because she definitely had the speed and looked really good. It was almost like seeing the Tane of old, really. You thought, hey, here we go. She's carrying loads of speed. She looks really good on the bike. Yeah, this is great. But Marine, yeah, it's always cool. She was at the airport. We were all flying. Basically, everyone flew back on the same sort of couple of flights. And, it looked as though she just had an early night, so she was ready for her flight again. It was no big deal. And I've got a lot of respect for that, really. She sort of takes it in her stride, it seems.